Okay, I have an article here that's been emailed to me a few times in the last few days. And there's the headline, of course. It says, Vatican calls on priests to be highly sensitive to climate crisis. Okay, let me scroll down. I'm just going to read a little bit of this because it's just a bit strange as to where he's going with all this. But here it says, the document titled The Gift of Priestly Vocation calls on these Christians to undergo an ecological conversion so their faith in Christ will become evident in their relationship with the world around them. This ecological conversion must be profound and interior, the text states, because being protectors of the environment is not an optional or secondary aspect of our Christian experience. And he goes on a little bit more detail here later, but here it says, this must then be applied to their future priestly ministry, making them promoters of an appropriate care for everything connected to the protection of creation.
On December 2nd, 2015, in an article called Our Common Home, Times of Malta writer Emmanuel writes this: Pope Francis calls these radical proposals as concrete steps of ecological conversion, which demands a different lifestyle. In their reports, the European bishops say that climate change is only one symptom of the unsustainable way of life, modes of production, and patterns of consumption that have evolved in the industrialized world. It is then clear that exclusively technical solutions or a reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions alone cannot solve the problem of sustainability. Ecological conversion also means dealing with time differently, both as an individual and as a society. We need to rediscover the rhythm of time, the alternation between work and rest, with Sunday as the commonly shared weekly day of rest. Pope Francis calls climate skeptics to ecological conversion. Pope Francis has decried what he sees as the weak reaction of governments to the climate crisis, while deploring the ease with which well-founded scientific opinion about the state of our planet is disregarded. What is needed, the pontiff suggested, is an ecological conversion capable of supporting and promoting sustainable development. At just 2 weeks from the one-year anniversary of the Paris Agreement to combat climate change, COP21, Pope Francis says that politicians have been distracted in implementing important measures to curb carbon emissions. In his address Monday to members of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, PAS, Francis blamed the sluggish adoption of the COP21 protocols on the submission of politics to a technology and an economy which seek profit above all else. Never before has there been such a clear need for science to be at the service of a new global ecological equilibrium, Francis told his hearers while painting a picture of a world on the verge of ecological collapse and a consequent increase of poverty and social exclusion. Continuing, it has now become essential to create, he stated, a normative system that includes inviolable limits and ensures the protection of ecosystems before the new forms of power deriving from the techno-economic model causes irreversible harm not only to the environment, but also to our societies, to democracy, to justice, and freedom. Catholic World News published this article on November 23, 2016, entitled EU Bishops, Back Pillar of Social Rights, Call for Recognition of Sunday Rest. This article states, the Commission of the Bishops' Conference of the European Community, COMECE, have renewed their support of the European Pillar of Social Rights and EU document on labor, education, and other social issues. In recent comments on the draft document, COMECE called for a recognition of Sunday rest. As in times of digitalization of the economy, the boundaries between private and work life become increasingly blurred. COMECE proposes to incorporate decent working hours and the right to a common weekly day of rest. The Bishops' Commission stated, "This day should be in principle the Sunday, which is recognized by tradition and custom in most of the member states or regions." The bishops added, "The economic and financial crisis has shaken the firm belief of Europe growing together. It has showed that without cooperation and dialogue at EU and global level, the nation state alone is no longer able to address the pressing social and economic challenges of our societies. In a globalized economy, COMECE therefore hopes that the European Pillar of Social Rights will renew social convergence in Europe and contribute to the creation of a culture that drives globalization towards the humanizing goal of solidarity." I implore every ear that stands behind this climate change movement or against it to take a step back and see where this is going. Rest on Sunday helps us all, not just Christians. Have you ever heard of the blue laws? A blue law is a state or local law that prohibits commercial activities on Sunday. Blue laws have been a part of U.S. legal history since the colonial period. These laws, which today are usually referred to as Sunday closing laws, prohibit certain types of commercial activity on Sundays. Originally, these laws were directed at personal activities regarded as moral offenses, such as gambling or the consumption of alcohol. In the 19th century, however, state and local governments passed laws that forbade businesses from operating on Sunday. Although these laws were clearly based on Christian beliefs, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that they do not violate the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. Many blue laws have been repealed since the 1960s, but some laws that ban the sale of alcohol on Sunday remain in force. So although this Sunday day of rest comes specifically from Catholic beliefs and can only be defended by Catholic principles, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that these laws do not violate the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. Literally, religious Sunday laws can be enforced in America and be seen as no violation of our First Amendment rights. We find in this article written on April 29th, 2016, which is headlined, "Regardless of your religion, our increasingly busy lives require a Sabbath day of rest."